Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. In today's video, I'll be giving you 5 sketching tips for beginners, and this will be specifically on Ibis Paint. This can be used across any app though, so these are just general tips that you can use in most circumstances. The first tip that I can give is to be rough with your sketches. Here we have a smoother one, and while this isn't necessarily a bad sketch, it's going to be a lot more difficult to line over that and to see what favorite course you want to take with your pen. If you went with something a bit more rough though, you can see that there is more space to experiment with things that you want to do. Go over each line a couple times if you want to. You'll also find that especially with doing bodies, being rough is better because you can see how you want to draw over them in the final line art more. And it's much easier to get a smoother result than only doing it with 1 or 2 lines like this. Oftentimes you can also have a better shape because you're concentrating more on getting the shape there instead of how clean you want it to look. It's just a sketch, it doesn't have to look amazing. The second one is just using guidelines. So right here you can see I haven't used any guidelines, but here I have, and here's how I tend to use guidelines. So with guidelines, I'll be using them right from the start as soon as we get our base shape, the base circle for our head if we're just doing a normal angle. I'll just go right in the middle here with a line. This is going to be my first guideline. It goes right in the middle of the head, or as in the middle as I can get it. And it helps me know where to put the chin. The chin will go at the bottom of here. You can put an extra line there if you want to. And then you know that you can sort of join it and try and make it symmetrical there. Another guideline that I like to use, which I will add on right here, is this one in the center. So you sort of have a plus shape with the head. This plus shape here is especially helpful because it shows you where to put your eyes, nose, and mouth. You can also add another line right up here for where you want the top of your eyes to be, so it helps out with eye placement and where you put your ears. These don't have to be perfect lines, but rough guidelines do help. The way I would usually use these guidelines is like this. So right at the center of where these two intersect is where we're going to put the nose. Drawing it depends on what style of nose you usually do. I'm just going to do this one right here. But you can see it's nice placement of the face because noses are generally in the rough center of the face. And then you'll know where to put your mouth because it can be right under that. Again, mouth placement depends on your style, what you want to do. And for eyes, we've already got these 2 boxes on either side. So we have 1 box here and 1 box here, which is where we can put our eyes. I'm not great at doing eyes on sketches. I tend to do better when they're in full drawings. But for example, here's where I would place an eye. This also helps because right on this line or right above it is where you can put the eyebrows too. And then right here with this, you'll find that it also helps with the ears, like I mentioned. Here is where the ear will start at the top of this line, and it'll end about there. Then you can see we have some nice proportions. Of course, you can mess with this to make it fit your style if you want to, but this is the rough sort of guide that I tend to use for most of my drawings. You can also add another line, which I do sometimes, that is right up here, where the hairline will be. This tends to help me when I'm drawing because it helps me know where exactly I want my hair to go to, where I want it to start and stuff. It gives me a rough outline. So I'd want most of my hair to end just past that line there. Maybe some past it just for stylization because I enjoy hair when it poofs into the face. And that tends to help. This isn't necessarily part of the tips, but overall with hair, I would like to add that it's good to try and make sure it isn't super flat. You could just go down like this, which doesn't necessarily look bad, but for most things, it tends to help if you go up a little bit, just give it a bit of bounce, and then go down. It depends on what kind of style you're looking to do with the hair, obviously. You're going to want it poofier if it is shorter, and you're going to want it sleeker if it is a longer style, depending on the hair type too. Overall, I would say when it comes to hair, treat it like it's sort of like water. There's going to be flow. For example, it all flows down here in this direction, It flows across here like this, down here like this, and you can see there's just a general sort of flow. Next is references. I definitely suggest using references. I don't have any active examples to show you right here, but using references in terms of poses, hands, even for characters that you're drawing, looking up references of them or getting pictures of them can help. Even if they're one of your own characters, having a reference there is just so helpful for accuracy, which is why I also recommend drawing your own references for characters that you make so that you have something to go back to if you need to find a reference for them. My next tip, going back to this little noodle we have here, is to have several layers for your sketches. Having one is good, of course, but I would sketch on a base layer, then do some details on top. For example, the hair, everything in white here is on an upper layer. Because then when you are cleaning up, you can go right to the base layer again, and you can just start erasing like this. And you'll find that for the most part, it really helps clean up sketches. It makes things look a little bit more coherent overall. You can also go in with the face and erase a lot of the guidelines on the face. And suddenly you'll find that the sketch is a lot cleaner. You can keep the guidelines until the end if you want to, of course, but I tend to not do that, because there's just not a need for them once I've already placed everything. As an addition to this, I would also suggest sketching multiple times. You can do your first base rough sketch, this can have barely any detail on it, and then do one above it, and then another above. You can sketch as many times as you want to. I'd suggest 2 to 3 sketches and then doing your line art. It just makes things a bit easier, you get more time to revise, so you know that you like what you're drawing. A good example for this, I think, is your first sketch should just be rough shapes. So this could be a rough sketch where you have sort of this really rough chest shot thing going on here, and that's just the basic thing for posing. And then you could have a layer above that where you would sketch again. You can even go over some of the same guidelines if you want. So then you have this second sketch here. On this one you might want to add some details, for example, clothing. And here you can even start adding details such as face details. Of course, hair would be something that you would probably do in the base sketch or even this sketch. And then you could lower the opacity here, make again another layer, and then you can have a much cleaner sketch on top of that. So then this final sketch, for me, before I do line art and stuff, if this was a drawing that I was actually properly doing, would be this. I would do some final hair details. I'd go back over the lines that I've already done with this. I would fix this collar of the shirt or jacket, whatever it's going to be, and just have some more defined lines for that. I would go down here and do any details left on the clothes, including the zipper. I'd go around and have the bust shape sorted. Again, do the lines that we've already gone over. For example, this neck one has several attempts in getting it done, and this will be the last one. Here you can add in additional smaller details, like details on clothing, small bits in the face, for example, a nose, if we were going to do one here, or a mouth. Going back over the eyes to do a slightly cleaner eye shape, fixing any proportions that you don't like. For example, I don't like this part right here. It feels uneven, so I'm going to edit it. Going over the past lines for the hair, or even doing new parts for the hair if you think the old ones are too rough. And then you can see your final sketch is going to be a lot more put together than the ones from before. Of course, then I'd go ahead and fix any details I didn't like. You can also pretty much just avoid the first rough sketch layer now, since it's unneeded. And then you can see you have a much easier sketch to line instead of doing it all in one layer where it's more confusing. And my last tip, honestly, is to get a picture of something that you've drawn in paper on here. A lot of people are more comfortable drawing on paper and can draw better on paper. So if that's the case for you, then do your sketch on paper or find a doodle that you did on paper and import it here as a picture. I've just put in an old random doodle right here. And if you just lower the opacity of this, then you'll find that you can line over it. Since the sketch is already there for you, it's a lot less complicated and can turn out better for a lot of people. I do this often with a lot of my pieces. I will have sketched them on paper first. As you'll see in my speed paints, it's a pretty regular thing for me. And it saves a lot of time if you're planning on doing something quickly, in my opinion, since everything is basically there for you. So I would definitely recommend this. There's less time for figuring out shapes and stuff. You just have to make sure that you're lining it the way that you want it to be lined and correct anything that you didn't like on the paper version. Overall, this is a pretty good method in my opinion. It's just pretty helpful and I like doing it this way. And that is it for my sketching tips. I can probably do some more in different videos for specific things. I'm planning on doing one based around hair soon since I enjoy doing hair the most. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, maybe consider supporting. I'm going to be having a Fiverr set up soon, so I will be open for commissions at some point in the near future, which is pretty exciting. I don't expect tons of traction on that immediately, but it is an option that will be available soon, since I don't really want to set up a Patreon, as I can't really get nice tiers and stuff sorted out, in my opinion, at the moment. Thank you again for watching. Bye!